What is happening, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Made by Miles podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Anton Grimley, who has been on a bit of a journey himself. He's currently on a journey going over to Australia, and we've met up over in Bali where he's enjoying a bit of his travels at the moment, man, which has been good. But we've connected a wee bit over here, and I thought it would be a great idea to get someone like Anton on the podcast who's recently just launched a new coaching program, but it's not just like your everyday coaching program. It's around mental performance, and with our ethos inside of the extra mile, creating stability and then ascending and then becoming someone who commands and leads in their life, I thought this would be a perfect guest to bring on to not only share his insights, but to give lessons and value around about how to actually remain calm under stressful situations. Because one thing I've noticed is when people feel under stress, they normally crumble and hide behind vices, act really frantic and then think they're burnt out, but in reality, they're just not good at controlling their emotions. So we'll take a deep dive into this. We've got a good couple of questions for Anton, a couple of quotes in there. He loves a quote, so we're going to get a few quotes out there, man. But before we start this, guys, do me a favour. If you are watching this on YouTube, pause it and like and subscribe this video if you haven't already. If you're watching on Spotify, do us a favour as well. Share it to your Instagram and tag us on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that we've got a different Instagram right now. And it's actually at Extra Mile Coaching Georgia, because of a bit of a hassle with hacking and stuff. So that's why it's still called Georgia, but I'm running it. But if you can tag us in it, that would be much appreciated. But without further ado, man, Anton, if you want to just kind of give a wee bit of your background about yourself before we take a deep dive into how you can remain calm when everything else seems like chaos.
How far back do we want to go?
As far back as you want, mate. As far back. I would say go as far back as when you started to notice that you needed more than just training.
Okay. So, first off, I'm a coach. I was a teacher beforehand. I was a PE teacher beforehand.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I was a PE teacher before
Cool,
for
man.
3 years, and I started coaching on the side
Right, okay.
2020 during that lockdown period, which I'll go into in a little second. But in terms of where I felt like mindset was needed more than, or mental performance was needed more than just training, was probably about 2 years into my coaching journey, so maybe 2022. And reason being is I feel like training really got me a head start. Now, I felt like it gave me a broad bit of confidence first off. From when I got leaner, started looking a little bit better. It gave me that confidence of, like I look better in the mirror, but I still don't feel good. I still don't feel confident. I feel chaotic. And for me, that was then into a journey of mental performance, even spirituality to a degree, which I used to kind of arc at when I heard that word spirituality. I was like, what is that? That was that airy fairy rubbish. But when I started diving deeper into it, I started understanding why so many people go towards that. So yeah, I've been a coach for 5.5 years now, and I've recently just qualified as a mental performance coach with a company called Total Mental Performance. Amazing company that I worked with in 2024, myself as a client on the client side. It completely changed my life. So when the certification came up in 2025, I literally couldn't have jumped at it quicker. I was like, no matter what price it is, I'm going for it. Sold on it, because it had such a big impact on me. Yeah.
I think as well, man, like obviously there was a lot to take away there from like a lot of like big words like mental performance, spirituality and all that kind of stuff, right? How would you, before we obviously dive into how you can implement it, how it can impact you, the impact it's had on yourself as well, and how you plan on impacting others, what actually is mental performance for the people that are listening? That are a bit like, is it airy-fairy? Like what is it?
Yeah, so mental performance is taking you from a feeling that is making you not move forward in life to somewhere that you can drive it anywhere. So where I aim it is people who are overreactive, overwhelmed all the time, chaotic in their life, to calm, clear, focused. And through that, it's a little bit of a journey through holding up the mirror to yourself as to the decisions you make, what beliefs you have around yourself, and thought patterns that have been driven into you from a very young age that you don't actually understand how much is impacting you right now. And when I went through it as a client, I was just curious. Like, that's like, as my podcast called Curious Conversations.
Yeah.
I've got my first tattoo saying "Stay curious," and it's something that I believe in. It's one of my top principles is to be curious. Be curious what is out there. How can I think better? How can I be better? How can I live better? And mental performance stems exactly from that.
I like that, mate. It's like, I really like that, stay curious, man. I don't know why, but I just instantly thought of like Yes Theory. Now guys on YouTube and stuff. I just kind of thought of that kind of like background, man. But see what you kind of mentioned there, it like really dives into like the white belt mentality, where a lot of people ignore that fact of being curious. When it comes to obviously you improving like your mental performance and really like challenging like limiting beliefs that have been created from a young age, man, do you believe that curiosity is like the backbone behind that? And if someone is stubborn and isn't curious, how would you kind of break that down and make them aware of that situation?
So from a coaching perspective, the discovery process as a coach is the most important part, because if you truly listen to someone whether it's on a discovery call, if you're just having a conversation in the gym, you can already tell the kind of limiting beliefs they have from where they want to go, because they'll say, oh yeah, like I would love to get in shape, but ... and that can come from like a broad range of reasons, but usually the reasons stem back from something, some feeling, some belief that they've had from when they were kids. And a lot of our narrative today stems back from situations that have happened from when we were age 2 up to age 12. Like that's when we find out our own world, and that's when the brain starts developing. But you're still stuck in stories. People can be 70 years old, 75 years old, and literally believe certain things that they were taught when they were 2 years old, and it can really have an impact on their trajectory. And my job as a coach is to find that out through holding a mirror up, certain questioning techniques, certain tools that I've learned to be able to change that. And an analogy I always use with mental performance is hardware and software. So if you think of your iPhone, everyone's got an iPhone, but some might actually be listening to this. On it, if you look at the screen, the apps, the front, what that is, that's the hardware. So like everything that you can see. But the software is the lines of code that have been written so that can come up on the screen. The beliefs, the thoughts, all these emotional patterns, that is a software that you've learned when you're very, very young. And that is running your day-to-day. So that your emotions, everything that you do, actions day-to-day, runs from that. That's your hardware. So when one of my mentors told me that, it really clicked as to like, wow, we don't actually understand what is running our actions day-to-day.
It's like a subconscious, if you will. And it's cool what you said it. It's kind of like not formed completely from a very, very young age, but if you think about maybe like things that happened to you from a young age, like maybe if you were involved in something that like was quite traumatic, so it was like a loud bang or something like experience, man, and like there's a loud bang that happens later on in life, you're kind of like, what is it and stuff like that, man. And it's quite cool, because I know a lot of people will be like starting to like, there'll be a lot of people already listening to this going, oh, okay, right, sound, that's starting to click, man. But what I find is, and this will be quite interesting to see your take on it, and we're talking around about obviously like holding a mirror up. As a coach, like we coach a lot on lifestyle performance, really digging in deep and really try and get people to regulate their system, because I just find that so many people's nervous system is absolutely fried, and they say they're burnt out all the time. I'm like, you're not burnt out, mate. Like, you're just stacking training on top of already a fried system. And when you try and hold the mirror up to them like that, they're like, no. Like, I'm fit enough to do this. It's no fitness, man. It's your mindset, it's your routines, it's your habits, it's your standards that are just out of whack. And when you try and hold a mirror up to somebody with that, it can be met with some resistance. Now, I can imagine in mental performance, when you're trying to hold the mirror up to someone who is not aware of the limiting beliefs that are holding them back, how hard is it to break that down with someone in not even a time frame, because everyone will be different, man? What obstacles do you come up with, and what's something that, or some things that people should be open to change if they are going to dive into this?
So from a coaching perspective, a lot of it comes from pre-framing first off. So like the story I just told you, it comes around education, because you know, as a coach, if you come in and you say, right, you believe this, you do this, you do that, someone's going to get their back up straight away.
Yeah, man.
And it's getting people to understand that their model of the world, the way that they see the world, can be changed, and it usually stems from changing their state somehow. And holding a mirror up is really just asking questions. Can be some of the simplest questions can open up like years and years of progress that someone could never have seen before, which is like, the more I get on my coaching journey and the more I learn, the more I understand that the question is the answer. Like, from a coaching perspective, that if I can ask a question that can have so much impact on another person, then I've done my job right.
Yeah.
If I tell the client or tell whoever I'm working with that a story that I've learned and this is how I learned it, that's not going to be the same as how they learn it. So the question is always the answer for me.
I love that, mate. And I think I heard a quote back in the day, it's like, good quality coaching just comes down from the quality of questions you ask people. And that's it, because it's like the red dot theory, where like you're poking and prodding at somebody and it's just like you can see the red dot just moving up, and then they just go with it, and then they pure blot out exactly what they want to say, but people struggle to like articulate, because there's, what I find is, you might agree, you might not agree, but I always find that, as you say, people have got their back up, but there's like a defence mechanism where they go, nah, fucking, I'm further ahead than what I am, and like you kind of peel back the layers and they're like, shit, and it's like that cupboard that everyone keeps closed all the time, and then you open up a wee bit and you go, nah, I don't want to deal with that now. But from like your side of coaching and stuff, I can imagine you're like, we're opening that cupboard, mate, we need to deal with that. And I can imagine, I know you've obviously just stepped into the role of like mental performance and stuff, which we'll get more onto about what you've just launched and stuff, because I've been watching it, mate. I think it looks pretty cool, man. I'm excited for you, mate. But you've obviously explained what mental performance is. It's kind of broke down like the kind of, as you said, the airy-fairy side of it, because I think in 2026, we're in a day and age where like you have to be looking after your mental health. There's so much stimulus out there where like you've got like so much dopamine at your fingertips, where people are just like, they're just fried from it. So that being said, mate, like, what kind of benefits has it had on yourself, mate? And I know we've had a brief conversation when we were out like the other night getting dinner and stuff like that, when obviously you had a bit of your past, obviously, with your like uni days, sorry. But what benefit and impact have you seen on yourself? Because I know you speak highly of Total Mental Performance and Kieran specifically.
Yep. So pretty much the people that I've launched this program, and the people who I'm wanting to work with is pretty much me 3 years ago. Because I was very chaotic, very overwhelmed a lot. I was pretty new into my coaching journey, yes, but not even just from a coaching standpoint, like just chaotic in my mind. And a lot of it stemmed from the thoughts, the belief patterns I had in my head, but then that was then leading to the actions that I was doing. Drinking too much. Like when I say drinking too much, I mean my uni days, like I drank often, okay, so like three, four times a week, and I would get blackout drunk, right, where I couldn't remember the night before.
Scary when that happens. Scary, man.
I'm like almost every single time, so it was like it was an issue that was under the surface, and I never actually brought to the surface until during lockdown, when I had a little bit more quiet time, and I was like, whoa, what is happening here? And then I thought I kind of got over it until about, as I said, maybe 2-3 years ago, where I would go out a lot less, but every time I went out, I would still have that exact same problem where I would get blackout drunk and I can't remember the night before. And it really got me questioning, like, around kind of more mindset stuff. I started reading a lot more about it, and I've always been interested in psychology and the mind, but I started facing like myself, like holding the mirror up to myself almost, and journaling a lot, asking myself questions and being like, why is this happening? And I didn't know until I got a mental performance coach and I started doing the deep work. And something that I always say is you can't podcast your way to a massive realization. And I think podcasts are amazing. Like, this podcast is great. I run my own podcast as well. It's good for giving people insights and understanding certain things. But I was listening to all the podcasts. I was listening to all the audiobooks. I was training loads, and still there was something inside me. I was like, I'm still not feeling like where I want to go. I've got a handbrake on, and yeah, for me, like I think that mental performance, when I started getting coached, it really asked me questions that I'd never asked before and made me understand myself more, to the point where I found out the beliefs that I had when I was younger, and where it stemmed from, the feelings of not feeling good enough, which is a common human neurosis that almost everyone struggles with. That's usually where that fear comes from as well. So you're chatting about the mirror when clients get the back up about something.
Yeah.
Usually getting back up is because they are protecting themselves. It's that protective mechanism of, oh, he's challenging me here, that must mean I'm not good enough. So that backs up that story that I've been trying to keep out my whole life. And yeah, mental performance coaching is just bringing you into centre and making you understand that you are good enough, and that there's certain beliefs that you just need to get rid of to go the extra mile.
Yeah, I like that, mate. Well done, mate. We'll get that clip. But no, generally, I really do like that. Kind of like puts things in the spotlight, and it was just the last line you said there really made me think about something I was thinking about earlier in the week. And like, we work a lot with people who have like binge tendencies, addictive cycles, like not necessarily they're taking drugs every single day, but we work with a lot of people who do have a coke problem, that do have a drinking problem, that do have a dopamine problem, porn, weed, whatever the fuck it may be. And what I was actually thinking is, like, what you said there was perfect. It's not that you're not good enough, we just need to remove some things and tackle some beliefs. But what I find is, from a lot of like coaches who work in like the addictive side of things, it's very much like, you're a waste of space, fix yourself kind of stuff. And it's like speaking down to people, and it comes from a space of like where they're trying to be an authority figure. I've noticed it quite a lot, and I always just kind of wonder, like, if you were to turn that, people who are going through that phase of life where they, like, people who are taking drugs know they shouldn't be taking drugs, like they know it, man, but it's like, it's an addictive thing. Same with alcohol and stuff like that. You know what you shouldn't be doing, you just can't help yourself, and the last thing you need is someone belittling you even more. And it's becoming so common in the social media space anyway, from coaches belittling people who are like a wee bit behind and already struggling, to kind of get them to feel a certain way to then like sign up. And I quite like the idea of going, no, it's not that you're not good enough, mate. It's just you've got a small bit that we need to change and tackle. And I think a lot of people relate to that and actually come towards that, because it lets them go, okay, I can drop the ego here. I don't need to pretend I'm something I'm not, and I can just be vulnerable with it. And I think a lot of people will get on a lot better if they accept that they need to be vulnerable to actually achieve these things. Where, as you say, it's like a lot of people have that defense mechanism where they don't want to be vulnerable, and it can be quite scary. And I can just relate it to when I went to therapy the first time. Mind, we were talking about this when I went into the Priory and stuff like that. And the guy just sat me down, man, and as you were saying, and I know it's not therapy that you was doing stuff like that, man, but the guy sat me down and it was just pure basic questions, and I was like, actually I'd say him, I was like, stop, because I was like, I'm going to actually just explode here and start, and it's quite uncomfortable. Yeah. But I've been to 3 bouts of different type of therapy, like obviously in the Priory, and 2 bouts of CBT. And the more and more I do it, I actually get more and more comfortable with going, do you know what, this is what's going on here. And I think if you can become comfortable with being vulnerable, you'll open up a lot more doors that will allow you to, as you say, remove some of the beliefs that you've got. Because there's so many down there that I'm like, fucking hell, man. Like, there's stuff I've done with my therapist back home, Louise. I've not worked with her for about 6-7 months. And like, I'll just be sitting there going, how have we figured this out? Like, it's mental, and that's been the difference. And I would say the past 2 years is the best I've ever performed, and I've been at this for 6 years, 7 years, the same as what you were saying there. And like the first couple of years, you're in training and stuff, like you're doing the do, man, but then it gets to a point where you're like, I'm still upset, I'm still angry, I'm still chaotic. What's in that? And then that's when you need to dive a bit deeper. And that's why I was kind of saying at the start, it's like you obviously need more than training, man, but if you are kind of like, listen to this, don't worry, you don't need to do absolutely everything at the start, man, but if you are listening to this, like, I would really take action on that and take a deep dive into it, because there'll be stuff that will come out very, very fast, man. If you don't mind me asking, but mate, like, what was it you really did notice about yourself? And the only reason why I ask is because, like, most people that are watching this will know who you are, and they'll just see this very calm and collected guy who's very, very knowledgeable. But I think a lot of people take a lot of comfort and belief that they can tackle their own things if they see someone like you going, right, this is what I noticed about myself.
Yeah, it's funny that you say like calm and like a very calming presence. That when I worked at a small group PT gym called Sin, finished up in November there, and I worked there for a year. One of the best places to work ever.
So it looks good. I've seen it on socials, mate. It looks brilliant.
Incredible gym, incredible team of coaches, incredible people there. And at that point, it was when I was coaching a lot of people in person. There was 16 to a session a lot of the time, and so you were coaching sometimes 200 people a week, like genuinely, like so many people. And the amount of times that people said that I was a calming presence and they just felt a little bit calm around me. No one ever said that before I'd done the deep work.
Did they not?
Never.
See, because I've only known you since you've done the deep work as such, man.
Yeah.
So that's very, very interesting. So I can just imagine there is like an A and a B here. Like obviously A is who we see now, B is like the chaotic Anton.
Yeah.
Which I genuinely can't picture.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, because we were chatting the other night over dinner and Jenna was talking about it as well. So I had an alter ego when in my drinking days called Ton, right?
Yeah,
and that's what still a lot of my pals know me as, like my uni boy.
They look at you and go, Ton coming out your lap? No.
Yeah, my uni boys predominantly, and it genuinely stemmed from Ton's coming out, like when I'd had one too many drinks and I'd just end up blittered, chaotic, and that wasn't just like the night out. That was the days afterwards and the constant cycle I was in as well of like, I'm going to be the person that stays up the longest. I'm going to drink the most, like, and that all stems from that feeling that I learned about and like during mental performance coaching of, I'm not good enough, so I need to prove X, so I need to do this. And yeah, so like I went from a very chaotic mind almost, where I really cared about what other people thought about me. I almost had to put a mask on, and when I started understanding that my thoughts aren't actually me, like the crazy chaotic thoughts aren't me. I used to attach myself to their thoughts, but something I've learned through spirituality, that whole that whole world, is that you have a conversation with yourself all the time in your head if you think about it. So you have, people call it the angel on your shoulder, the devil on your shoulder, and you have a conversation and you ask yourself, what one of them are you? You're actually neither of them. You're the one who's listening to them. You're the one that's behind that. So the thoughts in your mind, the constant chatter in your mind, that's not actually you. You're the person who's listening to it, behind it. But we get so attached thinking that is us. That is the story that's been written in our life. And that's the thoughts that constantly going on in our mind. But when you actually sit behind it and you're the person behind it, you can actually just watch the voice in your head and not attach yourself. Like, they could be arguing, they could be going crazy, they could be saying, you're not good enough, why did you say that to that person? That's so embarrassing. Why did you say that in the podcast? Anything like that. You can be the person that sits behind that, and when you truly understand that, it just brings you back to level, because you're not that voice in your mind that is constant and is crazy and is hurt from the story in the background. So yeah, I'm reading a book just now which is really strong on this point, and the stories in it are so good for understanding like this point, and it's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Anyone who's listening to this, I would recommend it massively.
We'll put it in the description at the bottom.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It's even like what you were mentioning about like I can just relate to that, but it's something that I'm also working on as well with like my OCD. And a lot of OCD is like intrusive thoughts, like, and with OCD they can be like, what the fuck, why have I thought like that? But I've been doing a lot of work with it where it's like, that's not you. As you say, that's just a devil on your shoulder. That's just an internal dialogue that has nothing to do with your actual personality. And over the past year, man, like, because when my stress is high and my overwhelm's high, like, my dreams can be mental, my routines can be crazy, and my internal thoughts and internal dialogue can be like out of whack, where it's like you think things and things get said in your head and you're just like, if anyone said that, nobody would talk to me again. Or if anyone heard that, sorry. And like, for a while when I was younger and stuff like that, I didn't really know what was going on with my OCD. And I was just like, what's this? I was just a guy that just moved TVs 3 times and all that kind of stuff and had mad thoughts. But as I've kind of get to know it, I'm like, no, it's just like a kind of part of my brain. It's not who I am. So what you were saying there about you just step back and listen is something that I've really, really took on board. It was very, very interesting to hear that because it's something that I'm still working on. And even the fact that you've been talking about that and preaching that and breaking it down in a wee bit more detail, mate, I'll take a lot of value for that because like OCD, and if anyone's watching this who has OCD and ADHD, it's very closely related. They'll have their thoughts, and I think with them going, right, okay, sound, I can step back for that. It doesn't define who I am. It's just a passing thought. It's like a cloud that goes by. Ross Edgley really described it very well, and I know it's in a completely different circumstance. He was describing it when he was doing, was it the Yukon swim? I think it was a Yukon swim. It was one of them. It was either that or the other mental challenges he was doing. For anyone that doesn't know, Ross Edgley's like this crazy endurance athlete who is a world-class swimmer. Watch him, I think he's brilliant. And he done Yukon River swim in Canada, which was the world's longest continuous swim. And he was describing like the thoughts that you get because you don't just get on with it. He's like, you'll just go through places and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? This is terrible. And anything you're doing in life, like endurance-wise, you'll get that. And he's like, it's just like passing clouds. Just don't acknowledge it. Just let it go. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, this is all right. And it's something I actually took on board with that, even in like everyday life, like with the intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to add that bit into it, mate. And then even as you were kind of talking about there, mate, like when we talk about tone, if you will, mate, like what was the traits that you started to see? I know you were talking about like, and I don't want to go in too deep and all that kind of stuff, mate, but it's more just for people to become aware of maybe their traits that they need to tackle. So obviously you were talking about getting like blackout drunk and stuff like that, mate, and like having to prove something to someone. Most people probably didn't even notice that you were doing that. What traits did you notice about yourself that, yeah, really raised the issue that you had that alter ego and you went, right, let's tackle this?
For me, a lot of it was uneasiness with myself. I couldn't sit in a room like of people, like say we're all going out. I could not sit in a room of people sober in my life. I'm now 18, 19 months sober.
Nice, mate.
I'm not drank in 18, 19
man.
months, which I think is a big part of how I'm way more calm now. Understand myself so much more. I can sit back and listen to the thoughts in my mind without getting attached to them. I think a lot of it does stem from that. But sorry, I've lost track. You asked me, what question did you ask me?
What traits did you notice within yourself, mate, that really brought you to surface to go, right, okay, let's tackle this?
Uneasiness of, like being myself, really. And that's what stemmed to alcohol was my drug of choice, where I would get blackout drunk because I was so uneasy and I hated the feeling of being around other people that way. And a wee quote for you.
Here we go.
that a lot of man's problems stem from not being able to sit in a room by themselves with their own thoughts. And I think it's Blaise Pascal, which is like somebody from the 1600s, which is like how much that relates from today to back then is insane. If you can sit in a room by yourself with your own thoughts and be okay and love yourself almost, is a huge benefit to your life, that you're not going to then think, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. That's what the chaos usually stems from, is an uneasy feeling in yourself that can stem from being around people. It can be from being by yourself. But if you're not truly yourself and just easy with yourself as well, then that's usually when things get chaotic. I need to be this person. I need to do this thing. Like, some people just aren't okay with themselves. But I'm living proof that that you can do that, and that's exactly why I wanted to go into this type of work. It's changed my life unbelievably to the point where I'm so much better as a coach. I'm so much better in my relationships. So much better with the relationship with myself by a country mile. Like, I'm not a people pleaser anymore. I'll say no to people now, and I'll put myself first. I'll fill up my own cup so that I can then serve others my best. I never used to be able to do that. I'd say yes to every single night out. I would say yes to literally everything because I was scared that somebody wouldn't like me because of this. I was perceived. I cared so much about how I was perceived, and that's because I was uneasy with myself.
And I get that, mate, as well, man. And it's the need to feel wanted, innit? Like that need. And I actually asked the guys that question on the Monday Mail call, man. It was like just the first question, and I was like, "What do you want people to know you as?" And like a lot of it was like loving parent, good partner, high energy, all that kind of stuff, man. And then when I actually looked at it, I was like, going, so what's the reason why you're doing this, man? First thing people do is like, this event. And I'm like, no, man. Like, you're doing this to be that loving partner, to be that high energy person, to create that lifestyle for the people around you and stuff like that. And people get so lost in that because, as you say, they're trying to prove something to people. And it's like, when you just have people who just do like, it's like people who, I call it kind of like deadline dummies, if you will, where it's like, right, I need to have this deadline done by that, I need to do that, I need to do that, this event after event and stuff like that. And you're like, why don't you just slow down and actually go, right, okay, what do you actually want from life? What do you want to be known as? And like, what do you want people to talk to you about or talk about you about, if that makes sense. And when people step back, it all just comes down to the core of that. I just want to be known as a nice, loving guy. And people don't actually focus on doing that, and they get so caught up in the ego of, I want this time in High Rocks, I want that Ironman or whatever it may be, or that half marathon, that 10K, which has a place. But if you've got that chaos in your mind where you're not actually comfortable sitting in silence, like that's where you need to do the work. It's like I asked one of my clients to do this as well recently. I see a lot of value in a morning walk without headphones. There's a lot of value in it, man. It's actually the one thing that I miss about home because we live next to a forest. It's not like a lovely forest, right? It's Fennon's Feast Bride, next to the greenhouse, right? Which is the area. That greenhouse is it's not. It is what it is, right? But we live next to the forest, and see, just going through it in the morning, it's just nice. It's just chill. But like, see, 5 years ago, I could not be in silence. But there's peace in silence, and it was actually what Jimmy Carr said on the podcast I was listening to earlier on. He's like, sitting in silence will give you the answers that you always seek. And it's like people will look just to learn, as you say, from podcasts and YouTube videos and reels or whatever it is, self-help books and stuff like that. But it's actually like, learn to sit in silence and you'll actually find the answers that you've been seeking. It might be uncomfortable, but you'll get to the bottom of it. Because anytime I've been in silence and I've just been like, right, fuck. It's like even some of my best ideas or some of my biggest realizations sound stupid. It came from the shower. They're that kind of like secluded bit where like you're not talking to anyone, you're not listening to anything. Some people might listen to music and that kind of stuff, right? But like it's just silence and you're just in that space where you're just getting washed and stuff. I know it's a bit of a mad concept, right? But a lot of my biggest like lessons that I've learned and ideas and eureka moments, if you will, has been in that spot of silence, and it's like a forced silence. So see if you can find a bit where you optionally find silence. Imagine the amount of stuff you're going to find out about yourself.
That's exactly where the answers are. That the answers are in the silence that you're avoiding.
That was the one, mate. I butchered it, but we got there.
I think it's actually Chris Williamson.
Was it Chris Williamson that said it? It might have been.
In fact, he might have said that on another podcast that Jimmy Carr has said.
Jimmy Carr, it might have been Chris Williamson that said it, man.
But he like there is studies on that's when you do your best thinking, is when you're in silence and in motion. So usually it's in the shower, it's out a walk without headphones, or in the car without music on. That's usually when people's best creative ideas, thoughts come from, because I think it's you see the other left side or the right side of your brain is in motion. So that's like the flow of the water, you're driving like unconsciously, whatever. But then the other side is thinking thoughts that isn't like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. But yeah, it's silence is a superpower. It really is. Being able to be silent yourself in a room is a huge skill that will take you so much further than running a 10K in under 40 minutes. Well,
yeah, man. And I think that's done. I was like, so how you doing? I was like, head's fucking mush, but sub 40 10K, and you're like, cool, man. Like, what you talking about, man? Yeah. And so many people just want towards that. It's like, I always like ask quite a lot of guys about that. And I'm like, how are you? And I'm like, training's going good. And I'm like, how are you? But I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, how are you actually thinking, mate? I'm just get on with it, man. Just stress of life. And you're like, doesn't need to be stressful. And that's one thing I've actually noticed from like travels and stuff like that. Australia's really good for this as well, man. Like Australia's like slow, but like not even in a bad way.
Yeah.
I noticed this with a few of my mates who work over in Australia, they're like tradies, and British tradies are a lot faster working than Aussies, but Aussie tradies are a lot happier than British tradies because they're just like, who cares, man?
Yeah.
And it's like it's a culture thing. The British culture is to be busy, be stressed, and work your ass to the ground. And there's an element where you do need to work hard. Like, of course, like I'll have like yesterday, it's a long day, a really, really long day, man. But instead, I got to the point of the day where I said to George, I was like, I'm fried. It was 4:30, and I was like, I know it sounds like pure first world problem stuff. I was like, let's go book a massage. I know not everyone can do that, but I was like, I'm going to just tie off the day today and just go and get a massage because I just feel a bit burnt out, a bit fried and stuff. But a lot of people would just push through that.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes you have to, right? You do need to, like, right, okay, I've got a day, I need to get this finished, cool, man. But when you become aware of, like, your thoughts, your feelings, like, your bandwidth, which takes a very, very long time to actually figure this out, you actually start to regulate and manage your energy so much more. I mean, you've got a full regulated system, you will do so much more. It was like this morning again, if I just push through, I wouldn't have got up first thing. Got up first thing. I'd already written out this podcast, but my brain was just firing. And I was like, I need to change things here and good ideas and stuff like that, building other stuff in the background. And by taking a step back, allowing yourself to be in silence, allowing yourself to regulate your energy, you'll actually make more progress, even if you feel like you're doing less. And I think you can maybe give me your opinion on this. People think less is worse, but sometimes less is better, and people struggle with it. What's your take on that, mate?
100%. Less is more, because I'm similar to you. Like, I used to burn the boats in that sense, where I'd be like, right, I need to get this done, I need to get this post. I went through a phase, I remember it, and I posted 2 times a day for 100 days, and that was 100 days of hell.
It's terrible, mate, honestly.
All the posts were shite, first off, because I was just like getting them up, first off. It taught me a couple of lessons, and like I was able to post consistently every day, etc. But on the other end of it, it was like my energy was terrible. The next day I just felt like shit. It then carried on to the next, like the 2 posts the next day of being like, oh, can't I be arsed for this? I'm just going to think of this. So that's like a perfect example of like less is more. If you do focus on real quality and don't burn yourself completely each day, then it's going to give you that energy the next day. And the way I think of it is, every day you've got a battery, and if you're going and draining the battery and then doing more off the back of it, you start the next day with half of it full. And it's just learning that what is right for you. And you're so right, you do have to go through phases of when that battery isn't going to be full all the time. Like, that's life.
100%.
Things happen like that. There'll be parents listening to this, people who have to like work harder if they've got something coming up. They've got, I don't know, Christmas coming up, and they're a parent, for example, is a good one. But on the other side of that, your actual life, like if you want to think 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what way do you want to live? How do you want to feel energetically? And that usually stems from what you do in a day.
I like that, mate. I like that. And that's so true, man, because there'll be some people that maybe get a backup in their head and go, it's not as easy as that. It's not. Like, first, even before we finished off for Christmas, when I said I was pretty burnt out, we had a lot going on, I was like, I'm fried here. But I was aware of it, man. And I just went, cool. Like, I've made this decision. And I think that's a very powerful thing, where I made the decision to drain the battery a wee bit. Some people don't make that decision, it just happens and they just normalise it. And they're just like, oh, this is just life. I'm like, no, not necessarily, man. And again, it always comes back to, are you okay sitting with silence? Are you okay with doing less? Because a lot of people put their purpose on how busy they are. And I'm like, that's not necessarily purpose, that's just chaos, in my opinion. And you're like, what is the actual backbone behind what you're doing? Are you just doing that to keep busy? Or is there a reason behind it? Is there a purpose behind it? And like, when me and you push for certain things, like, for instance, right, I know come July this year, July, August, I will probably be a bit fried, because we'll be at the back end of the Ironman prep. Where I just ran the length of Ireland, which I'll share more of. Pretty cool, man. We're doing like speed project kind of style. Yep. It'll be sick, mate. It'll be so cool, man.
Sounds good.
We'll be doing that, and then also we'll just be running the business. We've got a few ideas for the back end of the year which do need to get in motion. And like, I've looked at it, like the timescale, and went, cool, you're going to be feeling it quite a lot there, there'll be other levers I'll pull back on, social calendars and stuff like that. But it's my decision to do that. Is a lot of people just don't make the decision. They just end up in this cycle of push, burn it, and they never actually break it. And in that cycle is all the kind of like addictive tendencies, where it might be like binge eating, drinking, drugs, dopamine hunting, whatever it may be. And they never break it because they just don't see a way out, and they normalise it. And it's not normal to feel like that all the time. In my opinion, you're not meant to be fucked all the time. And if you are, something's not right. Whether it's circumstance based or decision based, you still should be looking at tackling it. Like you say, like parents. I'm not a parent, right? Worked with a lot of parents, but at the end of the day, I am not one, so I can't really give a fair opinion on it. And there is times where they will really, really push. But see if you like pulled open like underneath the hood, there's probably some like routines and standards in there that if you tweaked a wee bit, they would probably have a bit more energy. But it's like the kind of, how do I word this so it doesn't sound out of order, because again, I'm not a parent. It's like, how can you still claw back a bit of energy when your back is against the wall and people just give up on it, if that makes sense? And I think if you can turn the switch on that and go, what can I do instead of what can't I do, you actually will still try and find a bit of energy. And as you say, it's all about control. And if a parent hears this, if you can get a wee bit of control back, you'll get a wee bit of energy, and then you just start stacking it up every single day.
Yeah.
And then you'll start kind of like limiting your stress, man.
Well, that's a very good point about from a physical standpoint as well, like getting a little bit of control physically back, whether that's walking a little bit more water, more sleep, whatever it is. But also from an emotional energy standpoint, your emotions and the mental side take up so much of your mental bandwidth every day. And there probably is little thoughts, little beliefs that are holding on to you, that are just making, like, draining your energy all day. Like, if you think of it, that when your brain's been the worst it's been, when OCD's been the worst, or thoughts have just been the busiest your brain's ever been, you probably physically you're maybe not like, oh, I'm absolutely knackered, but your brain's just so tired, you just don't want to talk to them day. Like, you're like that. That usually stems a lot from emotional bandwidth and the stories you're telling yourself daily. But when you start to unravel them, and the perfect analogy for it that my mentor also told me was driving around in a car. It's like living your life with a handbrake on. That's exactly what your life's like. Whereas working on that, doing the deeper work, which is so important, is just taking that handbrake off, and it just allows you to drive anywhere you want to with more energy.
100%, man, 100%. And I like that analogy, I like the handbrake on, man. I say that to like quite a lot of my guys, just in like a feeling standpoint. It's like, you're going to training, man, but you're just not feeling correctly. It's like fixing the handbrake in a car, but it's got two fucking flat tires. It's not going anywhere, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? You might slug it up, but it's going to be hard, man. It's going to be really, really hard, man. And I think, obviously, I hope a lot of people can like take away from that statement there, and like I understand it as circumstance based. You might be looking at me going, "Oh, it's easy for you to say," and stuff like that might be easy for us to say, but like, we're speaking from experience and conviction that we've actually done this work. We've been there, we've done the deep work. It's fucking terrifying. It's like, if you might think like, oh, thinking about it for yourself is like quite scary. Like, when I face it, I'm fucking hell. Like, there's a lot of things that got unravelled, and there was a lot of things I didn't want to unravel, but because I have, it's given me the conviction to kind of speak about these things. And then I can obviously tell from yourself. And there was a quote that when I was researching for this podcast, mate, and it was like, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another, by William James, who's like a philosopher and psychologist. And basically what he was meaning by this is like, stress doesn't come from the situation alone, it comes from the story we attach it to. Like, two people can have the exact same environment, but the thought that they decide to pursue will be the one that actually has the difference. And I really, really like that, man, because you do find people who are like stuck in the same, like, the way to look at it is two people pushing for the same job, same stressors. One will just handle it so much better than the other. And it's that kind of like, what they decide to put their energy into. You know what I mean?
And again, that stems from what you were talking about earlier, and being able to step back and being like, right, what am I going to choose to do here? Yeah. Am I going to choose to bury myself into the ground and feel terrible, or am I going to choose the positive path that's going to serve me moving forward? Yeah. But it's, Viktor Frankl says something, and it's like, between thought and response, there is a space. So it's that space in between, but that comes from awareness. The more awareness you have, the bigger that space is in between, so that you can choose where you want to go. But again, awareness genuinely stems from the silence.
Literally going through my head, mate, 100%, man. Because again, like, you can't create any awareness if you're just like boom, 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 going all the time, man. And it's scary, man. Like, sitting in silence can be scary, man, but it takes time to get used to it, and like the answers will be there. And I think a lot of people would really, not I think, like I know people would benefit from doing it. It's just you will, like even the people listening to this, man, there'll be some people that will still just go, nah, I don't need that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you just need to look at like the 2 years. You need to look at everyone that's maybe in our circle and stuff like that, people that I've worked with. Some of the guys that come to the top of my mind, man, like some of my clients who have just achieved so much, man, like went into their 30s in the position of their life physically and mentally, all because they've surrendered to the fact that fucking 4-day training split's not enough. And I know that sounds like, fuck, you need to do more. Again, as we've been talking the full time, man, it's actually doing less that will get you to that next level, man, which is cool. And when it clicks, it's really fucking cool. I really like it, man. One of the kind of last questions, because there's a couple of questions I want to kind of like tie into in the last 10 minutes, more just about where you're going, the travels, and obviously you and Jen and stuff. I think it's just going to be pure cool, man. But what is like the compounding effect of working on your mindset and your mental health in terms of like performance? Because a lot of people, like now is the era of people just wanting to do big, hard challenges. And what I find is a lot of people go like, how many like fucking YouTube documentaries is there of people doing like 100-mile ultras and stuff? And I was like, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, it's not just training, mate. So like, what is the compounding effect of working on this to be able to do like the very hard challenges that people are aiming for?
Well, for me, it was almost a piggyback off the back of working on myself, like the deep work from mental performance, that my performance skyrocketed. And it wasn't just from like because I felt better, I automatically got better at performance. It just allowed me to put so much more energy into things like that, because my emotional energy wasn't absolutely drained every single day. I wasn't constantly caring what other people thought, or why did I say that, why did I say that. And my mind was a lot more silent, so it gave me so much more energy to push towards performance. And last year was the best I've ever performed from a physical standpoint. I qualified for High Rocks World Championships. I done a 125 and half marathon towards the end of the year. 2 things that I would have never thought I'd be able to do. This year, I'm going to be doing High Rocks World Champs in June, and I'm going to go for a sub-3 marathon at Sydney.
Sick,
I got into Sydney Marathon, so that's my 2 performance
Sydney's
goals.
a major now, isn't it?
Sydney's a major now,
Sick,
so it'll be
mate.
my first
That'll be class,
major.
mate.
Yeah. So if you can get your mind right and you can solve that from that standpoint, it gives you the energy that you need to do the work. Whereas if exactly what you said, if your brain is absolutely fried, if your nervous system is so dysregulated, and you then try and push for the big performance goals, that's when things go terribly. That's when your energy is completely shot, you burn out, you feel like shit all the time. And then coincide that with the mind, that makes the mind even worse, because then you're like, oh, why can't I achieve that? Why can't I achieve this? It stems from the deep work first, I always think, because it's created a life that I absolutely love, that I'm the fittest I've ever been. I'm chasing my dreams career-wise as well. I'm now launching something that I'm so proud of and that like has so much meaning and purpose towards my life. And I'm moving to the other side of the world. I'm moving from Glasgow to Sydney,
So cool, man.
with Jenna, and my best pal Aiden and his girlfriend as well. We're all moving over together and
That's sick.
chasing a life that is not because we hate Scotland. Like I always say that. Like I love Scotland.
I even heard Jenna say that the other day. She's like, Glasgow's a cool place, man.
It is.
She doesn't mind. She's like, I like Glasgow.
It's
Do you
a
know what I
cool
mean?
place,
So a lot of
and
people feel like bashing, go fuck going back there and stuff like that.
nah,
That's what you perceive it as.
it's a cool, exactly. It's perception. It's a cool place. There's some really cool people. As I said, worked in Sin. I absolutely loved that. But I just knew there was something else on the
There's
other
an itch.
side.
There's an itch.
There's an itch, and a question that would be good for anyone to ask themselves, that I asked myself at the point where I was trying to make that decision, is what would my 80-year-old self tell me to do in this situation? That's something that always brings me right back down to earth and makes me understand, right, that's the decision I need to make, because it future-proofs enough that I'm that far away, but also it makes the decision almost easier in the moment. So going over there to explore, to learn about myself, build business, build fitness, and take things next level.
Love that, mate. We're a sub 3 hour marathon, mate. Dynamite, mate, dynamite. Even at that, mate, like, what I really like about you saying that question about the future self and stuff, like, thing that I always say is just minimise the what ifs. Like, when you're old, you're 80 or whatever, man, you don't always be sitting going, oh, what if I tried that? Do you know what I mean? Like, give it a go, see what happens, man. You never know. It might be something that you don't want to do. It might be the thing that you go, this is the best decision of my life. But if you don't try it, you don't give it a go, you will say what if when you're older. That's why me and George are back out here for the second time. Like, we came out 16 months ago, and we came back home, and I was like, I need to go back out again. I need to give it another stint, man, and see what's happening, man. And as I say, I'm like, we're still out for another 4 months or something like that. And I'm excited to go back up the road. Obviously see family and all that kind of stuff, man. But it's like there's a big world out there, man. Like a really, really big world, man. And like, I don't know if you've noticed this, man. There's like Dubai seems like, I've noticed that I've not even been to Dubai, right? But see people who haven't actually travelled and stuff like that, I've just noticed this on socials where people just moan about things, right? Dubai seems to be getting stick to now, man, where people are fucking heartless people and that. And I'm like, you ever been to Dubai? Like, never left Britain. And you're like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what is going on, man? And people just have this pure narrative, man. And you're like, okay. But yeah, I know it was a bit off subject, but I do strongly believe, man, like, if there's an itch that's wanting to get scratched, man, definitely give it scratched, man. But mate, I know you kind of touched on that a wee bit there, man, but before we finish this podcast up, man, like, what is next for Anton? Like, I know you've just launched the mental performance program, mate, promote it, get it out there, man. But what's next, mate?
For me, I'm obviously moving to Australia. Got 2 weeks, and I think it's actually 2 weeks to the day until we move to Sydney. So from that, the first part is just going to be settling over there and finding our feet with work, with routines, training, etc. But in terms of where I want to go with coaching is I still coach people from a fitness perspective, people chasing goals in fitness predominantly. Usually it's more towards high rocks, fat loss, like what I done, my bread and butter beforehand. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm now having clients ascend from that into the mental performance coaching as well. But mental performance coaching is something that I feel so pulled towards, and I'm also going to with my clients, I'm going to be tying in some fitness aspects as well. Of course, the body is so important when it comes to the mind as well. But for me this year, it's just building a really successful, meaningful coaching program, and that's something that lights me up every single day, and I feel so pulled towards. So that is going to be my main part of the day. Other parts is going to be chasing fitness with Sydney Marathon, High Rocks Worlds, getting as fit as I possibly can for that coming up June and end of August time. So
that's class,
that's
man.
what's next for
It's
me.
class, man. I was finding it funny, but obviously I think it was Jenny was saying, like, obviously with Worlds, I was like, why could it not have just been over there? I said, well, it's obviously in Sweden this year. You need to go back, and you're like, cool, man. But yeah, it sounds absolutely class. Everything that you've got going on is really, really exciting, mate. And you can even just see, like, when you're saying it, just the happiness behind it, mate. And it just shows you, mate, from the journey you've been on, everything that you're now doing, most likely wouldn't have been possible had you not done the work on everything we've been speaking about today, mate. And mate, honestly, buzzing for you, man. It's going to be a very, very exciting time, mate. And honestly, it'll be good to watch the journey happen, man. And one thing I actually really liked about it is like the excitement to build a coaching business that has impact. Not just a coaching business so you can live the life, but like something that's actually going to change people's lives. And it's powerful when you get to that point. It's really, really cool, man. Obviously, you're already there, but it's just going to add an extra leg to it, mate, which is absolutely class, man. So, mate, thank you very much for coming on. This has been a very, very good conversation. I know a lot of people will take a lot away from it, man. If you have anything that you want to ask about it, anything that's just kind of been raised, man, obviously drop me a message, of course, man. But Anton, mate, if you share your Instagram and that, and if anybody wants to reach out and ask any questions.
Yep, I am Anton Grimley on all platforms, at Anton Grimley. Pretty simple. I also have a podcast, Curious Conversations, where me and my best pal Aidan, who is also a coach, we chat all things that we're curious on at that moment in time, whether it is things that we've spoke about today, whether it's high rocks, whether it's fitness, We chat in depth about that, and we also have other guests on as well. So they're the two places you can find me: Anton Grimley on all socials and Curious Conversations on podcasts.
Perfect, man. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning into this episode, man. It has been mega. As I say, and I said at the start, please like and subscribe. Give us a wee follow on Instagram, give us a follow on Spotify, make some noise, especially when we're getting episodes like this where it's really having an impact on people. But guys, we will round this up here and we will catch you on the next one.